Center, because some of you may not be familiar with us. The Children's Law Center was founded in 2005, and we've been serving children in Forsyth County since then, and in Guilford County since 2014. We started in High Point, and then in 2015, with the opening of the Guilford County Family Justice Center, have had 2 staff attorneys based there and have been serving children throughout Guilford County since 2015. So what, people often want to know, so what is it we do? We serve as guardians ad litem. We're all attorneys. Most of our staff is comprised of attorneys, and we serve as guardians ad litem for children in matters of custody. So that's in domestic violence protective order cases that most of you are familiar with, often referred to as 50B cases. Just so you know that when the plaintiff is filling out the application for this DVPO and they check the box for temporary custody of their children, the court must consider that request for custody, and the court may appoint an attorney or a guardian ad litem. So that's where we come in. And that's in both counties. We are advocating for children who find themselves embroiled in these DV cases. And as you all know, that children are victims of domestic violence when they are witnessing and experiencing violence in their homes. And then our other focus area is on high conflict custody cases. So that's when parents are divorced or separating, whether they're married or not, and the relationship is dissolving, but there's usually just such incredible animosity that it's palpable, and it takes a toll on the children. And in addition to that, there are often issues of domestic violence that may not have been reported to law enforcement, or no one's gone to court yet. We see a lot of issues with parental substance abuse, whether it's alcohol or drugs or prescription pain medication, or mental illness on the part of either one or both parents. And actually those other factors we see in those 50B cases as well. But in Forsyth County is where we handle those high conflict custody cases. As yet, we haven't been able to do that in Guilford County. That's been part of our long range plan, and it's just a matter of resources to launch that program. But that's kind of just an overview of what we do. And Paige is going to talk to you a little bit more about our role and what we do in the course of our work.
And I think we can flip to the next, and then the next one. Thank you. So as Iris mentioned, we serve as guardians ad litem, officers of the court for these children in the domestic violence and high conflict custody cases. So our role is to advocate for the best interests of the child, looking at their mental and physical health needs, their educational needs. How have they been bumped from school to school? Are they behind in their classes? Are they missing school? Is the child safe? Looking at both homes, is the child safe with each parent or caregiver? Should visits be supervised, unsupervised? If they are supervised visits, what type of supervision is needed? Can a family member supervise, or should it be at a facility? What about exchanging the child from place to place? We also look at the healthy relationships with each parent. So what has the relationship been like between the child and the recommend to move forward for a safe and healthy relationship between the parent and the child? Just said my internet is unstable. Hopefully you can all hear me. We also advocate for the freedom for the children that we work with to be able to be children. I think that is really important. We've got some children who want to have a say in court or in the process of things. They want to express what their wishes are. And so we will listen to those wishes, and we will express those wishes to the court, to the judge. But there's also children who don't want to have anything to do with court or the arguing going on between their parents, which is totally understandable as well. So, it's really up to the child as to what type of information they want to share with us. And our role is to advocate for the child, but also to protect the child from having to be involved in court proceedings when they don't really need to be. And that's where our role, we can step in, we can testify sometimes in the place of the child in certain situations. And so in the role of the guardian ad litem, we serve as the impartial set of eyes and ears for the judges. And we can flip on to the next slide. And thank you. To do that, we complete an investigation. And so just giving an example, let's say it's a case with a mother and a father, temporary custody has been requested. So we will meet with each of those parents at length. These interviews could take, hour to 3 hours, depending on the history of the case, to find out the history of their relationship, more about their family, extended family, what their thoughts and concerns are regarding the child, and what their hopes and wishes are, for the outcome of this case. We also do background checks, civil and criminal background checks on any adult in each of the homes where the child may reside. We review DSS records, police reports, medical records, and school records. We ask each parent for the names of family, friends, neighbors that they may wish for us to speak with to get some additional collateral information. So, we will, access that outside information. And we also visit the home of the parent and also visit the child at school. So there are some situations where it may not be safe to visit a parent's home, or, the child is not at the home with the parent due to a protective order. And so, that's one, I guess, perk of COVID is we've been able to do some things remotely via Zoom, but as often as we can, we try to get there in person, of course, to view the home, view where the child sleeps, see what, clothing, food, see if it's an appropriate place for the child, and also to observe the child's interaction with the parent in each home. And then we often go to the school to meet with the children in a neutral location to maybe, question them further about their thoughts and wishes of what's going on. Once our investigation is complete, and it varies in time, the permanent custody cases take a little longer because it's more in depth. But for, let's say, a 50B case, I'd say the average, might be about 3 weeks for us to get all those documents that we need and get the interviews and home visits complete. But we prepare a written report for the court with recommendations. It also includes some of the history, some concerns, impressions, but recommendations about temporary custody, visitation, could include services for school. It could include requests for drug assessment, mental health assessment. We almost always include therapy for the child. It could also include therapy for each of the parents. And really anything else that we think would be helpful for the child. What is in that child's best interest? Of course, it's still up to the judge to decide if something should or should not be ordered, and if something, they still determine the facts of the case, if something did or didn't happen. But, our recommendations are taken into consideration in the outcome of the case.
Okay. So why is it that we do this work? And I think that you all are aware of just the great need, right? That children who are living in homes with domestic violence and experiencing trauma have higher rates of depression and anxiety. They're 50 times more likely to abuse drugs, or 70% are more likely or will become either victims of violence or will become that abusive partner as adults. We at the Children's Law Center have been really concerned about adverse childhood experiences and looking carefully at the children we advocate for and how they are impacted by the adverse experiences in their lives, and what is that looking like, and what path is that putting them on? Because as you know, that these children who are dealing with all types of trauma are on a track towards poor health outcomes later in life. And just our own ACE survey, or not that we survey the children, but based on the investigation, like Paige is telling you, our interactions with children and their parents, the average ACE score of the children we see at the Children's Law Center is at least 4.5. So that means that that these children that we see at CLC are at high risk, whether it's for COPD, diabetes, heart disease, gastrointestinal problems later on, mental illness, high risk for early pregnancy, substance abuse. So obviously that's a concern of ours. And but we do know, and if we can go to the next slides, and I think people are familiar with this statistic, and then the next about our involvement in these 50B cases in particular. We know through a study that Wake Forest University School of Law conducted. We partnered with the law school several years ago, and they looked at cases in which the Children's Law Center was appointed in these 50B cases, and then a control group where we were not appointed. And what they found was that there was a significant reduction in subsequent violence in those families in the cases where CLC was appointed. In fact, there was a 28% rate of reoccurrence in cases where the CLC was appointed, but in the control group where we were not, there was a 70% rate of reoccurrence in violence in those homes. So that's significant. And in addition, their study revealed that the results were even stronger when the CLC was appointed at an earlier stage in the case. So we're not always appointed at the ex parte hearing. Sometimes it's later. So that actually makes a big difference in what the outcomes were. Next slide. So in looking at, what are the outcomes and what's the impact on children that we are seeing in the community? We've been talking about that. What's going on that's negatively impacting the children that we see? What kind of are the common themes and trends? And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. What we've been seeing. Paige.
So as Iris mentioned, even just as an office, we were brainstorming about some different trends that we've seen with our cases and children that we serve. And so one of the trends that I think we have all noticed, and you may have noticed this as well in your profession, is the last few years, and perhaps due to the pandemic, the children seem to be aware of and concerned about issues that in the past are typically used to be more of adult issues. So, some of the children that we're meeting with are well aware about finances, employment, childcare issues, politics, and even the court involvement. And, some of that's been going on for a while, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but, I just wonder if because of the pandemic, everybody was kind of cooped up in the same place and they're hearing the adults talk about this. And, social media was the tool that many of us used during the pandemic to get information. And so rather than, have that in-person contact to talk to people about these issues or worries and concerns, they were going to social media or other places. And I think it really hit me. CLC is a partner with the Camp Hope and Pathways program. And as part of that, I've been able to attend camp each summer to work with children who have been exposed or impacted by domestic violence or abuse. And I think it was 2020, we held camp, and, of course, everything had shut down. And so everybody was stirred up and, just not being able to get out and talk about things, and was amazed just watch the interactions with the kids. And I remember they were swimming in the lake, and kids as young as 9 started yelling and arguing about politics. And I thought, gosh, this is like their free time, and these are big issues that they're talking about, and just realizing the weight that's been on the kids' shoulders, these past few years, in addition to the trauma that they may have already been exposed to prior, just from being at home. So I think in addition to that, the kids, have experienced that at home and just other outside stressors, but they've also taken on then more of an adult role in trying to understand these issues. And at some point have taken on a caregiver role to try to help their parent deal with these problems. I had one case with a little girl who wanted therapy, but the reason she wanted therapy was so she could try to help her parent figure out how to deal with their depression and what could she do for her parents. So, just seeing a lot of issues that I think kids have taken on that didn't always take these issues on. And that kind of leads into a second trend that we've seen, and I think you probably all are very well aware of this, but the ongoing and consistent need for mental health services for children. I think that has been a trend, is still a trend, and will always be a trend. As we mentioned, we often recommend therapy for the children in our cases to address the trauma to which they've been exposed. And the therapy also plays out in courtroom situations as well. So we may have a child that can't have contact with their parent until therapy is in place, or the parent's been in therapy. So a lot of little components here to make sure that it's a safe environment for the child. And so we have seen lately, I think, an increased wait time for appointments, which then ends up in a delay in the court process, because I know as a guardian ad litem, I'm not comfortable recommending contact if it is not safe and services have not been put into place. So, again, that's up to the judge, but it just plays out in a lot of different ways. Another area that we have seen an issue, I guess, is where the parents are disagreeing about the medical or mental health treatment for the child. And so that can also result in a delay through the court process while we're trying to get that figured out. One thing we all did discuss and agree upon is that technology has been helpful and I think provided some additional services for children during the pandemic and afterwards that they may not have had access to previously, with the telehealth appointments and things like that. Kids who may not have had transportation to get to therapy. So that's been a really good thing, I think.
And we've also been seeing with the children that we work with that a lot of them are exhibiting behaviors that they had not previously. So many of them are acting out at home and at school. And at home, they are defiant towards their parents, more so than children may typically be defiant, that they are actually physically aggressive towards parents and siblings, which is obviously very concerning to everybody in the household. But they're also exhibiting behaviors at school, which are causing them problems, right? They're acting out in school and they're getting into fights at school. Well, then that leads to a whole host of other problems where things start to spiral, right? When they end up missing critical learning that's going on in the classroom. They're already distracted, right? Because of what's going on in their homes. But there's just been that our team has seen a lot more of this behavior. And that they've been just breaking rules at school, right? Whether they're not following the rules, they're not showing up, they're cutting classes. And again, these are things that these children had not done previously. A number of the children we work with have a lot of trouble sleeping. They're having nightmares, but repeatedly in a number of cases where these children are struggling with that. And then also with, as Paige alluded to and mentioned, to depression and anxiety. So I think, it'd be interesting to know what other people are seeing with the population that you all work with those of you working with children in particular. But, what our goal is really to advocate for these children, but to help put in place safeguards for them. By making recommendations to the court. Obviously, we don't replace their decision-making authority, but we feel it's so important for these children to receive counseling, and probably now more than ever because of so many reasons, right? And we also want their parents to get counseling because we believe that it's important for the whole family to be treated and to address the struggles of the adults as well as the children in order to make it a healthier household for all. Depending on what the situation will be with custody and visitation, we need for those parents to be in a good, strong place and to understand the impact of their choices and what's going on, or just particularly for offenders, right? What the impact is of their choices and their behavior is on their children. And so we believe that it's really important for an offender to attend an approved batterer intervention program. So all of these things, you know, our goal is to try to help these children to break that cycle of violence, even if it's one child at a time, because of course the ripple effects are just tremendous for them and for the community. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Paige and Iris, for bringing the awareness and also sharing a little bit about Children's Law Center and what you do. And I will add, as a child and family advocate through our Child Response Initiative, I am definitely seeing a lot of the things that you guys touched on, in particular, the acting out at school and home and the increase in the defiance, in particular, the physical aggression towards siblings at home. And also some of that regression in behavior. You had mentioned the nightmares, but also like bedwetting, things like that. So I'm hearing a lot of that from parents as well. And I do think it's so important for the whole family to get the services, you know, and wrap around the entire family. So I just want to thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you both so much and all the work that you guys are doing at Children's Law Center. We do have one more speaker, and we're going to open it up to questions after that, if that's okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Leland for an introduction. But again, thank you so much, Paige and Iris, and we do appreciate you guys so much and the work you're doing.
Yes, thank you, Paige and Iris. And I have the privilege of introducing our next speaker. Can you go to the next slide, please, Kel? Thank you. Marva Edwards, who is a member of our Kellum Foundation team. Marva is the founder of Marva's Outreach Mission, an outreach effort to encourage, inspire, and empower as it relates to domestic violence awareness and healthy relationships. She is certified as an advocate through NCCADV, as well as she is a North Carolina certified peer support specialist. Marva has facilitated Inspire, a support group for female survivors of domestic abuse, for 7 years and served in pastoral ministry in our community for over 25 years. So Marva is a wealth of knowledge and information, and we are so excited to have her with us today.
Thank you and good day, everyone. I want to say to the speakers today, thank you so very much. And I could comment on that in so many ways and in so many areas, the things that you shared, especially in terms of the wraparound services. And looking at my own life with my children and myself and realizing how needful those things are. Saying that to say I concur with everything that you all said. And so thank you again. And so my assignment today is just to speak to you all from the perspective of what survivors want providers to know. And I don't know if there are any medical providers that are on here or if we are mostly social workers and therapists today. But with that being said, one of the very first things that comes to mind is oftentimes providers will speak with patients or clients as though they are not well, in the sense of we know that they're broken because of what their experience has been, but it doesn't mean that they are incapable. And so oftentimes the language and the approach comes off in a very demeaning manner. And so I wanted to be able to lift that up to you all today. I actually got that from another survivor who found it to be a constant in her interactions with physicians. And so I wanted to submit that today. In my own experience, I had to go to Cone Hospital for treatment. And this was outside of domestic abuse. I had long since been out of that relationship, marriage. But I was having some health issues. And the nurse said to me or asked me, is anyone beating you up? And I was so appalled and insulted and offended by the way she presented that to me, that if I was in that moment, I would have never told her, because her approach was so poor. And so I want to just say that it's so important to ask that question in a way that demonstrates compassion to the person that you're serving. Another thing is that sometimes survivors are so afraid to say anything at all about their experience with domestic abuse because they may not be a legal citizen. And that was something that was just recently shared with me. And of course, their fear for their children, being separated from their children who are citizens, and they're being deported. And so I think it's important to be able to have some conversation around that. If you have a client who is an immigrant, and no one can ensure that they won't be deported, but if my understanding serves me correctly, they're reporting their domestic abuse, whether it's to law enforcement or to you as a provider, does not risk their being safe in this country at all. And so that is something that is that was said to me that is very significant, especially within the Spanish-speaking community. So I wanted to make sure to share that with you all today. And sometimes survivors are also so afraid that they may not tell you that they're experiencing domestic abuse or that they have, out of that fear, not fear of what you may do, but fear of trusting your process. And I just want to, at this point, speak from a peer support specialist role and being a survivor myself. And I know that intellectually we all know this, but sometimes we may forget because clients may not be moving as fast as we think they should or as fast as we would like for them to. It can take a very long time, if you're not a survivor yourself, to really be able to break through with another survivor. And I also think that every client or patient served should be served with the thought in mind that this person could be a victim or they could be a survivor. I think that is probably more crucial than anything else that I've said. I don't think, I think anything else that I would have said, that it has already been said. Two things I had written down, it has already been said from one of the attorneys. So I have nothing further to add than that. I appreciate being invited into this space to share. So thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Lalonde. Thank you, Melanie, for allowing me this opportunity to share.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing and just for the work that you do. I mean, I think this is a great example of the importance of multiple perspectives, including the perspective of survivors. We learn a lot from our fields, and we also learn a lot from people who have lived experience with different things. And so thank you for your courage to share your learnings with us so that we can continue to learn together. So I appreciate that. So we'll open up for Q&A for a few minutes before we move on to the next topic. So if there's any questions that people have, you can come off mute and ask our speakers or pose a question for our group. I have one to get us rolling. I actually have a couple, but I'll keep myself as you were talking. I was like, okay. So one of the questions that I had was around social media, and we talked a lot about domestic violence, and I'm curious about if we're seeing the same trends among teen dating violence, and just thoughts or reactions or around social media and TikTok in particular around, do we think that those are impacting trends of teen relationship violence and domestic violence and dating violence in that sense as well? Just posing that question.
I would say that I think the answer to that is yes. And to domestic violence in general, but especially when you talk about the teens, and it goes back to that whole control because of what they're posting versus what somebody wants them to post.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely agree.
From the legal standpoint, are you seeing that trend? Like, is that creeping into any of the work that you are doing with CLC?
I don't know in regards to, so we're not involved as much with the teen dating as much
Okay.
as the parental issues. So I don't know if I can speak as well to that issue.
Okay.
I do know
That's fair.
social media plays out in our cases a lot, but
Okay, that's fair.
Well, I'll speak. I lost my voice, so I apologize for any inconvenience. I probably sound like one of the Muppet babies, but I promise you, hopefully in a couple of days, I'll get my voice back. But I'm on my leave Vasco's and I work for ADS. I feel like sometimes teens post everything. It's like sometimes I was having a conversation with my kids. I feel like it's like glorified, or like it's how many likes, and it saddens me because I'm an 80s baby. We didn't have social media. I mean, we just started getting pagers. I mean, around when I was starting to get to adults. So we didn't have all this social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc. It's like they post everything. And, that's how drama and gossip and everything adds up. And I feel like I just wish sometimes more law enforcement would even take more look at it and take it more seriously, because these kids, I feel like sometimes they're crying for help and they just post stuff for cry for help instead of, having that serious conversation with their parents. Because at the end of the day, we are their first teachers. But it's like, how do we? I just don't know. It's like this generation is just totally different, I guess, than what I was brought up. So it's kind of hard, like how to reach these teens now, because they rather post things instead of actually having that conversation with someone that they deal with on an everyday matter.
Yeah.
It's just kind of hard,
Yeah. I imagine from domestic violence to teen violence to both of those things, that social media probably has shifted the game some in terms of like, how do we intervene? What are the interventions look like? Because we have this whole other influence in domestic violence and in teen dating violence that is a relatively new construct in how we intervene and how we keep kids safe and how we keep families safe. So I don't know that there's been a ton of research specifically on social media and its impact to domestic violence and to teen violence.
I know, well, I was having a conversation with my kids and they're like, Mom, look, this famous rapper is actually putting his hands on his girlfriend, or vice versa. This famous rapper is putting her hands on her significant other and is like glorify like the domestic violence to the people that they look up to, singers, actors, etc. And I'm just like, oh my God, these kids, this generation just like don't get it sometimes. Just don't get it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing I do think that we have seen is an increase in, if there are issues of inappropriate pictures and things being on phones, that kids may be more hesitant to talk to their parents because they're worried their phone's going to get taken away and restrictions are going to be placed. So it's that delicate balance, or, in some of our cases, one parent's more lenient than the other, or a parent cell phone gets taken at one house, parent from the other house goes and gets a new cell phone. And so there's just so many things, when it comes to social media.
Exactly. Or sometimes the kids trying to run their parents, like sometimes I have kids that come to my office and I see the way they talk to their parents, and I'm in my head like, oh my God, if I would talk to my mother the way I talk to that they talk to their parents, I would have the only bar of soap in my mouth. So it's like, like I said, I don't know if it's this generation or the way sometimes their parents are scared of their children, but something has to give, because it's just sad that you turn on the TV, you see another kid getting murdered, or, it's just, you never hardly see anything positive in the community, and it's sad. Something has to give. Something just has to give.
Thank you for sharing that, Eileen. I appreciate it. Any additional questions for our speakers before we move on? All right, well, feel free to share in the chat box if you have additional. Iris, Paige, Marva, thank you so much for sharing your insight and for the work that you do every day with families to keep our family safe, the kids safe, the community safe, et cetera. It's important work, and we couldn't do it without you all. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So as we transition to the next segment, I am super pumped and excited to share with you some updates about our Child Response Initiative, or CRI. And I know a lot of people on the call are probably already familiar with this initiative, but some people may not be. So just sharing a little bit about what CRI is. So CRI as a program is a coordinated community response that's specific for kids and families that have been impacted by any type of trauma or violence. So maybe it's bullying, maybe it was a car accident, maybe it's domestic violence, which is probably half of our cases, sexual assault, et cetera. So the functions of what we do include safety planning. So we do some safety plan and safety assessments. We do ongoing advocacy and support for the family. Now, when we say advocacy, we want to specify that we're doing advocacy for access to services, not necessarily court advocacy. That's a different type of service that's not part of our array of services. So just wanted to specify that. But we also do a lot of information sharing with adults that are around kids about, hey, here's some common reactions we might see in a 5-year-old exposed to trauma versus a 15-year-old, and some of the signs and symptoms to look out for, so parents can be equipped and caregivers and other adults can be equipped with that knowledge to recognize some of the things that might pop up. And then, of course, connections and referrals to resources available, not only treatment resources, but housing and food and tutoring, et cetera. So that's just a quick recap of the CRI program. One of the things that that I also wanted to share is we've been in play for a long time, since 2008. So, and we have been replicated at least 4 places across the country. Since we started the initiative, we've served over 30,000 kids. So we're excited to be able to continue this program. As we are evolving the program, we are hearing, as it's grown, we've heard from a lot of partners that one of the things that they'd like to do is see expanded access to the program. So we started in 2008, specifically in partnership with the police department. So we had advocates that are based within the police substations. And while we still partner with the police department, our model is shifting some to be more community-based so that we can access a wider array of referral sources. So we were hearing from schools and churches and the Y and camps that it would be helpful to make referrals, particularly for kids that may not necessarily have law enforcement contact, but that would benefit from these types of services. So we are shifting our model some. Our hub, our centralized hub for our team is going to be more community-based and won't be in law enforcement, which will allow us to expand access to additional partners that may want to make a referral. We also are streamlining our portal so you can make a referral online. You could email, you could phone call, et cetera, specifically for CRI related services. So those are some of the differences in terms of where we're based and the scope of who we're able to get referrals from. And then some of the things that are the same is our services are the same in terms of the kinds of things that we do. Our commitment is the same. Our leadership is the same. Melanie, who's on this call, is our team lead for the CRI program. So those things are all the same. What we're working on doing is just expanding that access. So we're really excited about the ability to do that. So just as a quick recap, anyone can make a referral. The email is super easy, cri@kellenfoundation.org. You can email a referral, you can phone call, you can, we're gonna launch an online portal for the expanded access really soon. So we're excited about the potential to widen our reach. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing since this shift is occurring is meeting with different community groups, attending community meetings, sharing a little bit more about the broader access so that community partners are aware that anyone can make a referral. So if you are interested in us popping into a meeting or, kind of giving the same little spiel to your community group or your church or your school, et cetera, PTA, just let us know and we'd be happy to share resources at those different meetings. So I'm going to share a little bit about the Trauma Provider Network. A lot of you on the call are part of the Trauma Provider Network. And so this is our time and space for you to give a shout out on what might be happening within your organization, any program updates you have, et cetera. So are there any individuals that want to share updates?
Okay, I will. This is Shawan Moore from the Women's Resource Center of Greensboro. Hope you're all well today. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. It's good, wonderful work you're doing, great information. We'll be excited to be sharing that with our clients and visitors. The Women's Resource Center has just completed a training for resource specialists. During the pandemic, the staff was basically doing most of it. So we have trained about 17 new resource specialists to do community resource counseling. Community resource counseling is one-on-one peer support and resource and referral information. We're referring clients to our programs and, of course, to programs in the community. So we're happy to share that with anyone. All of our services are free. We do serve adults only, 18 and older, but they're certainly welcome to come in, get information for their children. We have information on all kinds of children's services. And we do assist men as well. The community's resources are for everyone. So we make sure that we provide those resources and information and services for men as well. So that is my update. Thank you for allowing me to present that, Kelly. Any questions from anyone? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Shawan, for sharing. That's exciting. Love that.
Oh, I do have one more thing to say. One of the things we do is invite speakers from different agencies to come and speak about their programs and services. We do have a resource guide with all kinds of programs and services in there, but it's always great for the trainees to hear direct from someone who is part of the agency. And Leland was wonderful, kind enough to come out and speak to our class. She gave them some great information. They had questions. She interacted with them well. She had a really great presentation, and of course represented Kellen very well in a great agency. You guys are doing wonderful work. Thank you, and thank you, Leland.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you and all of the work you're doing as well at Women's Resource Center, and proud to be partners with you. So anything that you need or anything we can do in the future, please let us know. Any other Trauma Provider Network updates before we move on for some announcements?
I would like to speak on behalf of Youth Focus and Alexander Youth Network. So we actually got an expansion for our transitional living program, and I'm not sure if that has been announced or not. So I did want to get on and just share a little bit about that, so that if anybody has referrals or anything, that they can send it to us. And so I actually added the email address for our program manager, who is like the lead in the transitional living program through our agency, in the chat box. So you can email her any questions that you may have, and or referrals can go directly to her as well. Her email is A Hobson. So it's Alexis Hobson, but she goes by Allie. But our transitional living program expansion is, we have 4 new apartments available for DJJ involved clients 18 to 21 who are in need of an apartment and housing to transition either from detention centers or from the community into like adulthood. So we are excited about that expansion. We're able to serve a lot more youth that way. And so if anybody has any questions or referrals, please feel free to email it to Allie's email, which is attached.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashlyn. And I'll be sure to include that as well as Shawan, your information in the meetings. So exciting. Thank you for that. And we appreciate you. Anyone else before we move on? I know we're just about out of time. I want to be mindful of everybody's lunch.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time, but I'd love to give a quick update.
Yes, absolutely. Go for it.
Hi, everybody. My name's Austin. I'm the LGBTQ+ outreach specialist for Family Service of the Piedmont. I'm sure some of you know me. I recognize some faces in here. As you probably already know, this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we are doing nearly an event every day of the month to raise awareness and connect with other service providers. So I hope to see you all at one of those events this month. Just speaking from my role, I'm really excited this Saturday to be working with the Transgender Task Force at the Trans and Non-Binary Youth Summit. It's happening from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the Lindley Park Center, I believe it's called, the community center. You can find more information about it online, but I'd love to see you all out there to learn more about how to raise your capacity for serving trans and non-binary youth.
Thank you, Austin, for sharing that. And I will pass that along as well in our notes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brandon Taylor. I am the fatherhood coordinator here at the Parenting Path in Winston, but I am the Guilford County representative. And what we normally do is we work with fathers or father figures that have children 0 to 18 months. We do case manage, we do one-on-one, and then group settings as well. It's all virtual. And so it's something that the fathers would need, especially in situations like this, just to learning of being a first-time father, but also learning how to communicate not only with the child, but also with the co-parent or even just the family as well. We are currently in week 4 of our classes, and our next set of classes is going to be sometime in the middle, close to late November. So if you know any fathers that are in need or need case management, just let me know and I can go ahead and send my information that way.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'll include that in our meetings minutes as well. And again, in November, we'd love to have you touch on that again if the classes are starting again in November, so we can keep that in front of everyone. Thank you so much. Super important. We appreciate all of you and for you being here today. Just a few announcements to wrap up from Kellen. We've got our back to school supply drive, October 8th, 1 to 3 at the Children's Museum. So come on out. It's in partnership with the Junior League of Greensboro. So looking for the items that were listed there, and you can find that on our website. Also have our Teens Gotta Talk, Learn to Cope free online workshop for grades 9 through 12 beginning October 17th. And you can find more information again on our Kellen website or social media. Lefty for Life Memorial Golf Tournament, October 14th at Bryan Park Golf Course. Starting at 12 p.m. So get out. Hopefully it'll be a beautiful day. Next, and our Shays Chase 5K run and walk, which will be at Revolution Mill, November 5th, 11 to 3. Packet begins at 9:30. So if you'd like to get a team together with your agency or with family, we'd love to have you come on out and support that as well. All right, so finally, to end, our next Resilient Guilford Network session is going to be November 2nd. Again, that's the first Wednesday, 12 to 1, and we love to have all of you. We want you to share it broadly. Would love to have you guys back, so please look for the registration link. We'll be sending the meeting minutes as well as the link for the next session, and we would love to have all of you there. So we appreciate all of you and all of the work that you're doing in our community, in particular keeping children and families safe and well. And we look forward to seeing you in November. And you can always reach out to me at any time if you have any questions or anything you'd like me to share on those minutes. I would love to do that. So thank you all, and I hope you have a great afternoon and enjoy this weather.
Stay well, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.